Welcome, everybody, to another episode of State of the Thunder. We are back after August hiatus, and this is officially season two. Maybe, I don't know. We're going to have a little jingle to start. But starting from this new season of State of the Thunder, we're going to have a little bit of a shift in management, if you want to call it that way. I'm not going to be alone speaking for an entire hour and just talking to myself. But Mr. Michael Ellis is going to help me out here. It's going to be officially my co-host. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Alessandro. Thanks so much for having me. It's a delight to join the crew.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Thanks for helping me with this. Michael is going to help me a lot to gather feedback from the community and preparing these episodes with a lot of interesting questions. One initiative that we want to have is sharing a general open Google Doc that we're going to update every couple of weeks to gather questions from the community. Do you want to talk a little bit about that initiative, Michael?
Absolutely. Yeah, so we're just always looking for input from the community, specifically through the lens of this call, the State of the Thunder. We're exploring some different ways and testing out different channels and just seeing, hey, where are we getting the most traction in terms of people being curious and wanting to ask questions about Thunderbird? To Alessandro's point, we want to bring all of those questions into a central document. And I think it would be fair to say, perhaps put something like a simple Google form together. That way people can quickly click a link and submit a question. So lower that barrier to submission so that we can address everyone's questions quick and easy.
Yeah, absolutely. We are very optimistic and we want to also allow users to send anonymous questions. I know putting an open form on the internet where people can write anonymously can go horribly wrong, but we trust our community. We'll see how it goes.
And we've got thick skin for the rest. And for those that haven't met me, perhaps maybe framing that as well. My name is Michael Ellis, and I'm the community manager who's joined to oversee the Thunderbird community. So I'm very much looking forward to uh, wrapping up the remainder of this year with some very fun projects and initiatives and launching some new stuff in the coming year. So we're very much looking forward to it.
Nice, nice, lovely. All right. Let's jump right into a bunch of questions that we have here. Um, a little bit all over the place, but it's the first episode of the new season, so it's fine. We're gonna have probably a much better structure in the following episodes. But the first question comes from a user that participated into the accessibility overview and started writing. We started collecting questions for our accessibility post and try to answer some of those. Of course, as usual, sometimes we get questions that are not completely related to the topic that we put out there, but nonetheless, we gathered those questions, we moved them into another section, and now we're here answering that. So the first one is the user was anonymous, so I don't know they who they are, but they wrote clearly the number one issue with Thunderbird is that breaks for many of my clients is that if they accidentally click on a column header and the sorting of the message is changed in between double quotes, they write, my messages are gone, is what I then hear all the time from my clients. It would be wonderful if the sorting of the message could be locked and not changed through such an easy operation, which often is invoked accidentally. Yeah, that's a very good usability point. Is a It's a complicated. I mean, it's easy, but it's complicated because the my answer would be was switch to cards view. Cards view is a lot harder to accidentally change. That's one of the many reasons why we also implemented cards view. It's a more compact, more solid overview. You cannot accidentally click on a header and change the order. But the clicking of the header is a very common action that every tabular UI looking application come with, and you would expect something like that. We definitely can explore and implement potentially an option to lock the header in, maybe something through um, enterprise policies. if a manager wants to, if an admin wants to manage multiple installation of Thunderbird and having all the same UI, all the same order, it's something that could be locked into place. But it also brings a layer of friction because users, maybe the majority of the user expect of the ability to click on a header to quickly change the order. So if we locked into place, then that will be perceived as an issue. Yeah.
Could it pop up a dialog box issuing a warning to the user? Hey, you're about to change this. Is this what you intend to do? Maybe it's
Ooh.
something to explore, but it's an interesting use case, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting use case. It's always difficult and tricky to uh, follow a user interaction with a pop-up. It creates layers of friction. It creates stopgap to your interaction with the application. But personally, I also experienced that when first using Thunderbird. I was constantly accidentally clicking on a header instead of clicking on the first message, and suddenly the order and the sorting of my messages was just all over the place, and I hated it so much. That's why I love Cards View. But yeah, a couple of action items here. We can definitely explore something, especially if you manage multiple installation in Thunderbird in your enterprise, an enterprise policies to lock into place, and then exploring the possibility to freeze the header of the table. So yeah, I captured those. Thank you so much for the question and thanks for the feedback. Anyone has
Quick,
anything else
quick
to add here?
question.
Yeah,
Sorry. Would there be
totally.
an option where we could adjust perhaps the padding between those and make it less likely for larger thumbs to click it, so to speak, larger mice to click it, rats to click it?
Roger, Rat.
Maybe it's not rat.
Yes, we already have that option. Like users can change the density and the font size of the application to create more space or less space
So
between those
maybe
two
that would be an
things.
option as opposed to interrupting the expected behavior.
Probably. Yeah.
Something to think about. Maybe
Yeah.
something to hack together for a fun project or
Hmm.
something to customize as an add-on. Who knows?
Yeah. It's always interesting. Like a lot of these issues that we get are very personal and very tricky to fix because the behavior of each person is different. It's sometimes for these specific edge cases, it's tricky to implement a solution that satisfies everybody. Sometimes the solution actually creates discomfort or annoyance to other people. So we always need to be careful in considering how we can do it in the most optimal way that satisfies the majority of the people. And for the people that are not satisfied, they can change it, manipulate it, or adapt it easily, and it's discoverable and it's not like too tricky. But yeah, it's a never-ending struggle here, which we love because it's what we do here. So yeah,
Yeah, that
thank you.
interaction, that interaction sounds uniquely problematic in that sense, and that a lot of people would really want it frictionless. A lot of people, if they do a lot of sorting quickly, they're not going to want like to either hunt or to double or triple click through a series of interactions. But for the people that do have problems with it, it's probably really annoying. So it's kind of like, where can we find like a nice smooth way of managing the interaction without totally throwing off the other UI conventions?
Mhm.
So definitely something for us to think about for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm glad that we have some UX folks in this call so they can just capture all these things and we can create a plan. But good stuff, good stuff. Next question. Could there be consideration to add a keystroke to immediately move the focus to the list of messages in the currently open mailbox? Even better if keystrokes that would automatically do this for the inbox folder or the default account. So we already have something like that. It's not super discoverable. That's an issue that we're trying to tackle. The function 6 key F6 allows you to switch focus for between the main areas of the application. So the folder pane, the message list, the message pane, and the search bar, and that's it. Like it removes all the other steps and clutters that you would step between. Like if you press tab, it would tab through all the areas and all the buttons, and it's kind of a mess. So we're approaching this problem in two different ways. First, we are implementing tabular keyboard navigation. Tabular keyboard navigation is the type of navigation that if you press tab, you only focus on the first item of a long list or the first item of a larger group. For example, if you have multiple buttons in your toolbar, you focus on the first button. If you press tab again, it moves to the next section. But if you're in that tab group, you can use your arrow keys to cycle through that tab group. So we remove the extra tab, 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 tab to switch between areas. Plus, we are working on customizable shortcuts. We plan, I don't know when, we need to write a plan down with an expected delivery date, but we plan to have a searchable keyboard shortcut hub, heads up display, something that users can search for all the type of keyboard shortcuts and search like what type of actions each keyboard shortcut does, and allowing users to customize each keyboard shortcut. So we can have a specific shortcut to focus on the folder pane, or another one focus on the message list. We know that navigating our interface, especially just with keyboard, can be a little bit daunting because we have a lot of sections, a lot of areas. So we're approaching these in multiple angles. The first one is simplifying our keyboard navigation. The second one, which is a lot more complicated because it doesn't come easily to implement, is to allow keyboard customizable shortcuts and an overview of all our shortcuts. Slightly related to this. Yes, I think it's very related to this one. So the question starts with, I work for a company which develops a Raspberry Pi-based computer made specifically for blind consumers. Thunderbird is installed on this device by default. Yay, thank you. Many of our users are not tech savvy and just want a simple email client. I would love to have an easy methods for removing some of the clutters with the goal of having a UI with fewer controls. Currently, users often have to press the tab key many times just to move to the list of messages in their inbox. For some users, all they really want is the message list and the list of folders with the menu bar open, and that's it. A bit like we once had with Outlook Express. Anyone remembers Outlook Express? Yes. This is interesting because this is something that Ryan and I have talked for a long time, or even recently, and we constantly talk about this, about the necessity of having a light Thunderbird version or something like a simplified, easy first approach for users that don't need the complexity and the power of Thunderbird. Some users that just need their messages, not even their folders. Sometimes you just use your inbox. You want the list of messages and read one message, and you usually just reply or delete, and that's it. Nothing more. So is definitely in our mind, and it's part of our plans for the updated UI. It's a very complicated things to achieve sensibly. I don't know. Ryan, do you have any thoughts about this?
Yeah, so it's a great timed question because Alessandro and I have been discussing it quite a lot. I don't to disappoint this person a little bit. I don't like, and some on this call know this because they brought it up before. I don't like the idea of a Thunderbird Lite separate installation. I'd like to fix the usability issues in Thunderbird that make people want that, so that there's kind of a curve where if you're coming in and you're using Thunderbird on day one, you're having a good experience and good non-complicated experience. And then if you decide at some point that you want to go beyond that experience, you have the ability to change things and choose your own adventure. But I think what people are tapping into is a problem that we have let exist in Thunderbird as a community and as, a team, which is that there are moments where we've just opted for just show this to the user. We don't know what they want to do with it, so let's just show it to them. And I think for a lot of users, that's a disservice because there are folks who really want to have everything in front of them all the time. But for a lot of users, that's cognitive burden to be exposed to everything all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. It's definitely Thunderbird is clearly an engineering-driven user interface, which is absolutely fantastic for the people that are comfortable with that type of options and having the ability to see everything all at once and modify all the things. But we know from user research and studies and just the change of the behavioral interfaces and how things are presented to the users through the web and mobile devices or smaller screens, the cognitive burden is really difficult to lower, and allowing users to start using a new application without the need of, oh my God, I'm going to need to spend a week just checking all the options before getting comfortable with it. We just want to remove that. So our approach is simple by default, but powerful and customizable if needed. And that's a layer of complexity that also we need to achieve without upsetting our existing audience, that maybe they customize it very heavily and they really like that approach and they have their muscle memory. It's a difficult balance to maintain, but that's one of the many reasons why we don't just implement a new user interface altogether and we just like, there you go, like this is Thunderbird 2.0. It's completely different. We always try to do sensible iterations and updates and upgrades of the UI, but definitely the objective is in the near future for a new user offering a much simpler, more welcoming and basic, even if it's not the right term, but like basic workflow and UI. But then if they want it after they get comfortable, or if they already are comfortable, just switch to advanced mode and do all the wonderful things that you can do with Thunderbird. Heather.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I agree, a separate installation's a bad idea. But if we were to if we were gonna try to address all the user interface issues to satisfy those people that wanted a light version, I mean, we can't make everybody happy. So I liked the idea of like maybe it sounds like what you were suggesting, Alessandro, like having some sort of user preference or something that you could kind of a switch to turn on like certain things or turn off. Because yeah, I hear that a lot, that request, every time I go to a conference, or even older folks that work at the co-working space where I'm at that use Thunderbird that would like just something a little simpler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's in our radar. Absolutely. Yeah. We are
It's
working to
certainly,
achieve that.
it's a common theme. It's something that we get a lot, and it's challenging because we have everything from people that are less familiar with email, laptops in general, and the web, everything from there to power users, and we're providing a product that satisfies all of that and everything in between. It's challenging, but
Yeah, Alex has done a lot of explorations. Alessandro, for those of you who don't know, we call him that for shorthand. But the Alex has been doing some explorations on this, and just like last time with Supernova, he will drop those at some point in a couple of public forums where folks can discuss them and set everyone on the internet's hair on fire again. But we'll get to talk around that. But I do think we can move to something that is just a lot easier for new folks to use. And the truth is, we'll always get pushback for changing the UX and the UI because that's people have muscle memory, like Alex said, and it is hard to change. But I think that it's part of this technical debt that we've been paying down for a long time. We have a lot of UX technical debt, and we need to pay that down, and it'll make, in the long run, it'll make a lot of people more productive.
Yeah, we have some interesting plans interesting things cooking that we hopefully in a couple of weeks we're gonna start sharing. It's always there's an extra layer of difficulty there because it's difficult to communicate to the audience. This is an exploration. And not just our community. I think our community is very receptive, especially the active community that participates. They really understand, like, hey, this is a test, this is an exploration. We have this intention to do it. Give us feedback. And we have a great collaborative things. But the problem is that whenever we put out there on the internet like a screenshot, that it gets grabbed by publications around as like, this is the new Thunderbird, and it's like making it as is a done thing. And of course, grab a screenshot and share it in a blog post somewhere out of context, then people start freaking out. And then we have to do a lot of damage control. Like, hey, no, wait, we're experimenting that. That was a first test. So we are a bit careful and conscious, but we want to stick to our strength, which is like work in the open and share initial prototypes and gather feedback as early as possible so things don't come as a surprise and we are collaborative. But it's going to be interesting to see how the internet will react. Yes. All righty. Next question. More technical, more generic. I think I will leave the answer directly to Heather because she's the most knowledgeable one here. But the question is, I'm using Linux, one of the Ubuntu derived flavor. And I have Thunderbird 128.14 ESR installed through the PPA colon Mozilla team/PPA repository. I would love to know when the ESR version of 140 will be available in this PPA.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, unfortunately, it's kind of confusing for users, but this is not an official distribution method of Thunderbird. It is owned and maintained by a longtime community member named Rico, and his handle is Ricots. And you can click his name in the PPA and contact him directly, and you can ask him. If you're looking for an official distribution method, I would say as a user using an Ubuntu derivative, go use the snap. If you snap install Thunderbird, then you will get the latest ESR version. And you can also use the Flatpak. You can get later versions, so the monthly releases in the snap as well. So if you're looking for something newer than 128, that's great. I encourage you to go grab the snap or even the tarball works too. So, or you can contact Rico directly and ask him.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I wasn't aware of this Mozilla Team PPA that it existed out in the wilderness of the Ubuntu PPA. But yeah, it's interesting. There are like multiple ways of installing Thunderbird, and for users that are not well versed, it's definitely confusing. So yeah, definitely we recommend, as Heather said, to go with Snap or Flatpak because we have more control over those distributions. And all of them are on 140 right now. Just as a side note, this 140, this ESR release of this year was the best ESR release in a very long time. We didn't have any corruption or massive regressions, and we were able to ship it at a higher rate and upgrade all the users a lot thanks to the monthly releases that allowed us to test things early and make ESR a lot more stable. So we're very satisfied about that. So yeah, thank you, Heather. And then we have a little bit of an interesting topic here. So we have a lot of users that participate in the community and write in our official forums and the support forums, sometimes in other social media, things like Reddit. We have our official place there. We try to accommodate and answer as much as possible, go everywhere around all our social media channels. But whenever we get a request on social media of when are you going to do this? When are you going to change this? Why don't you implement these other things? We try to redirect people to always use Mozilla Connect, which is a great place to share new ideas and share proposals, and people can upvote their proposals. So we can kind of get a sense of what our community members really want and what are the things that they want us to prioritize. I will admit that we are not very good at following up in terms of when we implement something, then we go back to the Mozilla Connect post and say, hey, this is actually available. We're getting better at that. I'm sure like Mr. Ellis can speak to that. But one thing that I want to do right now, we have a list of the top 10, top 20 most upvoted Mozilla Connect posts. And I would like to go through this and show you which one we implemented and which one we're working on it and which one they're completely outside our radar for now. But it's a nice exercise to maybe show that we're actually looking at those. I heard sometimes users around the internet say like, yeah, I'm going to write it in Connect or I'm going to write it in Sumo and no one will see that. So I write it there and my post goes to die. That's not true. We look at almost everything. It's just very difficult to follow up and implement because, yeah, information is scattered around the internet. But let me share this little picture here.
I would maybe add, it's always our intent to have eyes on everything. Whenever we see those users' concerns, we do always care. Like it is earnestly a team of people that I think genuinely, and it's hard to speak for others' motivations, but I can speak to my own. We want to solve your problem. We want to help because it's part of the reason we got an open source in the first place, part of the reason we got involved in the Mozilla project and the Thunderbird project. It's because we like helping people. So when these things pop up, that's our first instinct is the desire to solve the problem and to be helpful. And balancing that at scale is where we encounter these issues.
Yeah.
And so we always want to reiterate to the community, we hear you, and it's always our intent to address everything. So sometimes it's hard to catch everything, and if you can, by posting in the correct channels and trying to add us and putting things in appropriate channels and threads and topics, it helps to get those important and correct eyes on the correct message so action can be taken.
Yeah, well said. Thank you. All right, let's go through this list. The first one, of course, is Firefox Sync, which is very close to my heart. It's something that I wish we had many, many years ago. We implemented it in desktop last year using a staging environment for Firefox Sync. Unfortunately, Firefox Sync is called Firefox Sync because it was built for Firefox primarily. Thunderbird, especially the profiles of Thunderbird, they have a lot of more information and data points. And for security reason, for technical reason, we couldn't just consume the production Firefox Sync environment. We needed to create something completely different. And at the time, services like the Thunderbird Pro and all the other things started spinning up. So we took a step back and we decided, would it make more sense to have a single Thunderbird account that manages all your things? It manages your emails or send and then your sync. That created the necessity of rewriting basically things from scratch and re-implementing new things and just updating all the code. So we had a fair amount of delays. We apologize for that. It was a lot of uncertainty in terms of that type of technology. Sync hasn't been developed actively. So the first time the sync was implemented is more than a decade ago. Documentation is not very easy to find, so we had to learn a lot of things, and it took us much longer than expected. But definitely Sync is in our radar, and we want to have it hopefully next year. I don't want to promise anything because every time we feel like we're very close to completion, then other 20 unknown things just slap them in the face and it's like, oh no, this doesn't work. We need to do it better. There's also an aspect of in Firefox with Sync, you primarily sync your bookmarks, your settings, your add-ons, things that are I wouldn't say unsafe, but things that are like they don't need to have like a tight, very controlled security layer there. They're bookmarks. They're your bookmarks. Yeah, there's a layer of protection and privacy that we always want to respect. But in Thunderbird, we are planning to allow users to sync their email credentials, their preferences, and all their accounts, not just emails, in order to make it easier to spin up a new installation on another device. All of that type of data is extremely sensitive. So we need to make 100% sure, we need to be 100% sure that that's perfectly encrypted and safe. And people, if a bad actor access in a way that cannot move horizontally or vertically in the stack and access other things. So we're taking a very conscious approach whenever we allow users to upload their data on a server that they don't manage. We are always very, very careful. So that's one other reasons why it's taking so long. But yeah, it's part of our priorities. We absolutely want to have it, and we will have it. I don't know when, but we apologize for the delay. We feel bad about it. Perfect. Next up is better GNOME desktop integration. Very generic, but in general, yes, we're working on that. We already integrate a lot better with native notifications. That's the first step. In the future, we're trying to implement and expand native APIs to communicate better with the built-in calendars, built-in accounts. These are all experimentation that we are going to do slowly throughout the next year. So this is in progress. In general, it's not just for GNOME desktop. We want to do the same for all the desktop environment. And the wonderful things that we do, thanks to our multi-platform code, thanks to Firefox code, if we implement something like native notification in Windows, we can also enable it on macOS and Linux without too much changes, because the APIs and the code base is shared. So we have the intention to make Thunderbird feel and behave a lot more like a native application. That's definitely on the horizon. I will definitely take a look at this post and see what type of integration they are looking for, but it's definitely part of what we want. The third one, color for Thunderbird accounts. We already have that. You can access your account settings and customize the colors of each account. Those accounts will have a custom colors in the folder pane. And if you compose an email and you have multiple accounts, the accounts have a little color there. So this is definitely one of the things that we could follow up in Mozilla Connect and say, hey, this is available and you can actually use it. Same thing. Oh, show full email address when mouse over sender. This should work. We already have that in the message header, but also in the message list. You have the ability to control what you display. If you want to display just name, just the email, or name and email. But on rollover, we show all the information. The tooltip text shows the full email address over the sender, both on the message list and on the message header. If that doesn't happen, that means it's a bug. So we're going to take a look at this message. And if it actually doesn't work, we're going to open a bug report and fix it. But that's also a thing that we implemented. And it's super cool. Number 5, don't save passwords as plain text, but rather integrate with OS storage system.
I think it's saying to use something like the macOS password manager that's built into the OS to store our passwords instead of the Thunderbird profile.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I think they're also it's known that they're stored in plain text passwords, but it's not a vulnerability. It's by design.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Yeah, definitely. This is all part of a better desktop integration in general. We should leverage the operating system options. Like in macOS, we should leverage the keychain options there. That's a bit more tricky, but definitely it's part of the strengthening and security and integration plans that we have for Thunderbird. Yeah, we can circle back to that because it opens up to different things. I don't know if in multi-platform, like how in Windows it would behave, or how in on Ubuntu or another Linux derivative that don't have these type of things. Maybe we default back to what we do. That's good. Yeah, good point. Thunderbird should by default have all telemetry as an opt-in option or have zero telemetry. Yes, we definitely want to change these during the first account creation. We want to expose a lot more. This is an effort that we're doing also on mobile. After you set up your first account, we actually, all the telemetry is off by default. We ask you, do you want to enable it? Yes or no? Currently in Thunderbird, we show, when you set up your first account, we show a notification bar at the bottom with the privacy policy and know your rights and all the telemetry. And you can disable that, but it's definitely, that's opt out. We have very small, like a bunch of telemetry probes that are enabled that. This is a good point to highlight the fact that telemetry, I know every time we talk about telemetry is ruffle some feathers because of the way that all the companies out there do telemetry. They're very aggressive, very invasive. They capture everything from the users, from their email address to the size of their underwear. It's absolutely insane. It's difficult for us to be very effective without good telemetry. Unfortunately, relying exclusively on user feedback only paints a very small picture of how users actually use it. I can give you an example. Based on some UX conversation in the mailing list, where the majority of our active community is, the app menu, the hamburger menu, needed to be a one-to-one duplicate of the menu bar, needed to have all the options be styled exactly as the menu bar. And a lot of users, a lot in the sense like 20-ish users, this was from like 2 or 3 years ago when we started rebuilding from the Supernova. A lot of users, they were very passionate about the app menu needs to be an exact duplicate of the menu bar. That's how people use it. That's how I use it. That's how it needs to be. I had an intuition that it wasn't the case. It was very clunky to use from a UX point of view. It didn't really make sense. The app menu should highlight some specific global options and not, but a larger conversation. At the end, we ended up enabling some telemetry just on the number of clicks on how many people actually open the app menu. We didn't collect email address. We didn't collect location, names, like nothing, just the count of click. Whenever a user was clicking on the app menu, we would just register +1, +1. It turns out that almost 99% of the menu items in the hamburger menu are never clicked and never being clicked for an entire year. That is the discrepancy that we constantly have. Like if we only do things based on the user's feedback, we will only be able to see a very small percentage. And I'm not saying that that small percentage is less important than how the rest of the users use it. There are different use cases, but having the full picture and knowing these users really care about this, but the majority of the users don't ever open the app menu, allow us to make a more sensible choice and decision that we can satisfy both things because we have the full picture, because we're not missing important information. That's why telemetry is important. And once again, reiterating, our telemetry is completely anonymous. It's borderline impossible to fingerprint users through our telemetry because primarily we only collect integers. Like, is the menu item visible or not? Is the menu item at the bottom or the top? Is the message pane visible or not? What is the layout? Is a table layout or cards view? That's what we're interested in like the specific setup of what is visible, how many clicks are happening in this button or not. That everything else, we don't care. Like, it doesn't affect us. We are not in the business of collecting data or selling data. we really need to have that telemetry to improve our project. But nonetheless, yes, to this point, sorry, I went on a tangent, but yes, we're going to improve our telemetry opt-in and allowing users to have complete zero telemetry, which is already possible. Users can disable all the telemetry.
I just want to add that because telemetry is so important, but also seen as like a bad word, we are in MZLA, the community team and Marcom, we're working together on a blog post specifically about this to kind of explain why telemetry is good, what we gather exactly, and to show that it's nothing nefarious. People can look forward to that in the coming month or so.
And Heather, if anyone listening today or watching the video on YouTube, listening to the podcast, wanted to reach out and perhaps ask a question ahead of that article getting published, so maybe we can front load addressing that, how might they reach out and share some input or questions they have about this article?
Yeah, good question. I think reaching out to us at the community matrix channel would be a good way. But really, any of our public matrix channels, they can at one of us at Hellsworth and say, hey, what's the status of this or whatever, and I would be happy to answer or direct that question.
I had to look to be certain. I am at MozMike, MozMike, one word. It's a throwback.
Nice. Thank you. All right. Yeah. Moving on to number 7, Thunderbird for iPhone and iPad. The short answer is yes. We're working on that. I don't know if Mr. Todd wants to tell us the beautiful things about using native iOS widgets with the ability to be responsive, so we can actually release the same application, same code base also for iPad. Is this something, Todd, you feel comfortable in sharing at this stage?
Hi, sure. Yeah, if we use native, so iOS 26 is coming out next week sometime. We don't know exactly when, but it is the most unified version of Apple's sort of vision for all platforms being the same platforms. All of the underlying code is the same. And now the interface for, I guess, user interface is unified. And so we have an opportunity with a new app here to use SwiftUI and have totally responsive design across the board. So iPad, widgets, windows on iPad. We have free floating windows now. All of that can be enabled just by using the native SwiftUI. Yeah, I didn't really have anything prepared, so I could probably answer a question about it. But yeah, no, that we're very excited about the possibility of having sort of like one user interface, and it can be anywhere. You know, it'll be in your widgets, it'll be across your devices theoretically, if you are on Apple at least.
Yeah, that's exciting. No, thank you so much. I know I threw you under the bus, like, hey, told us about iOS right now. But yeah, that was very excited to learn, and it's a good thing. I mean, floating windows on iPad, what are those? Whatever, I don't know, like personal opinions, but it's gonna be interesting. And having those widgets that allow us to be responsive, natively responsive, if it's forcing us to rethink how we approach design, but we're gonna be able to release the same application on multiple platforms, which is fantastic. Multiple devices, which is very exciting. So it's happening. Number 8, JMap support. Yes, slightly related to iOS. So we started iOS with JMap support because it's a modern IMAP version, and it was the most sensible things to implement by default without any technical depth. We want to implement JMap support for desktop and Android as well. Those two platforms had a little bit more complexity because we haven't implemented a new protocol in more than a decade in neither of those. We started on desktop with Exchange because it was the most solid and documented one and enabled us to, other than open the doors of Thunderbird to all the Microsoft Exchange users, those that want to stop using Outlook, which we suspect are in the hundreds of millions of users. Microsoft doesn't release proper stats, but we have some generic old stats that they put in around 500 to 700 million active users, especially the old version of Exchange. So that was a no-brainer to start with Exchange. It's a new protocol, but opens up the doors to millions and millions of users. All the knowledge that we gained from implementing a new protocol, we can just reuse it to implement JMap. And we don't need to rediscover all the things from scratch because we already documented the full path, and through the Exchange implementation, we were able to clean up a lot of things and optimize a lot of things to make new protocols pluggable. So JMap is definitely on the roadmap, and it's happening. We want to support this new protocol, and hopefully more services, more servers will adopt it. Coincidentally, our Thundermail will have JMap. So we're going to be our first consumers of JMap. Thunderbird and Thundermail will discuss through the JMap protocol. So yay.
I guess just a quick note, fun fact about JMap. In comparison to IMAP, it kind of puts a lot of the complexity of synchronization onto the server side, which is good for us because the protocol access is easier. So we were looking forward to seeing that across platforms.
Yes, fantastic news. Yeah, very much looking forward to all of that. Number 9, we are Firefox translations in Thunderbird. Yes, this is part of the exploration in the roadmap. It's very low in our list of priorities for multiple reasons. First, there was a performance concern. There's been a recent article for 142 where all the machine learning implementation of Firefox were moved from WebAssembly to native C++ code, and that improved a lot of the performance of those implementations. That was one of the main concerns. Like sometimes these things like happen in the background and they spike the CPU all of a sudden. That is a good improvement. But also there's a strong general perception of don't put any machine learning in my installation. I don't want any of that. So if we implement it, we need to be very sensible on how we expose it, how we don't bother users on translating things that don't need to be translated. We need to improve. We need to study a lot of the UX. From a web browsing point of view, it's kind of common that you end up a lot of the times in a website that maybe you don't speak that language and you're exploring something, you do some research. So you need a quick translation. From an email point of view, unless it's just a random message or it's spam, it's more unusual to receive constant messages in a language that you don't speak. And on the other end, like I'm Italian primarily, so I have some messages in Italian, some messages in English. I really don't want a pop-up that tells me translate this when I receive an Italian email. Like I speak Italian and I don't need that reminder all the time. So it's a delicate implementation more from a perceived, oh, you're adding AI to my email and now AI is gonna read my email, even if Firefox Translate is all local, doesn't talk to a server, doesn't send your data on the cloud. It's very tricky to do it right and to have like a positive perception from the community, but some community members really want it. So it's part of our plan. We just need to do it very carefully and we need to do it right. I think we can pause it here. We can continue the rest of this list in the next State of the Thunder section because there are a lot more technical things about calendar, vJournal support, and K9, HTML Senior, all this stuff. We can talk about it in upcoming sessions.
But Alessandro, I'm so excited. I can't wait. When is that next session?
Oh, yeah, that was very natural. Next session is going to be on September 16th at 3 p.m. Pacific. We do this to accommodate also our folks in the New Zealand, Japan, Asian hemisphere, and they can join it. But yeah, it's going to be Tuesday, September 16 at 3 p.m. Pacific.
I wanted to maybe add one more thing, which is to circle back to something we touched on earlier in the call. And I hate to do that right as we adjourn, but the user asked, and I think I wanted to touch on it. So you remember the question earlier about feedback coming into Connect and just in general about feedback channels, how to best be seen, heard, and etc. So to that point, I just wanted to echo the comments that you had made about having eyes on and, everyone's feedback is important, and we always want users to feel seen and heard, but that sounds great, but it also sounds like a bunch of marketing jargon. It's a real effort. We've been spending more time in Sumo. That looks like real hours spent by humans like Heather, humans like me in Sumo, and humans like Wayne Mary, who, forgive me for not mentioning him earlier, is not on this call today. But over the last month, just taking a look at a couple of things high level, we know it's not a perfect environment, but something to be happy about is in the last month, we've seen average time to first reply in the K9 discourse is holding steady at 0 hours to first reply. That means people are at least being seen, heard, and addressed. Page views are going up. This is again K9 Discord forum, and our likes are going up. So we're seeing positive metrics, better close rates and discourse across the board. In Sumo, we're seeing better things. We're seeing 7% more questions this month. We're seeing our reply rate go up 12%, our backlog down 4.6. OP, so the original posters are replying less. That's gone down 5.2%. That could be better satisfaction with the initial answer, or it could be less engagement. We'll have to figure out what that looks like. But all that is to say, we are seeing positive trends on the numbers. Reply rates up 4.5%. So real effort, and we're able to see those tangibly paying off in the back end as we're tracking those numbers across the board. So exciting stuff to share.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah,
there's a question from Tim asking if we're talking about English US only or all locales.
Oh, Tim. I'll double check NUS is the answer, but don't quote me. And thank you for pointing out that very important distinction. I'll double check my data, but I want to say it's holistic, but let me double check, okay?
Yeah, adjacent to this, I have a personal agenda here where I participate into the Italian community, Mozilla Italia community, and I reply to those things. I collect questions and I try to be active there. So primarily our base of people working at Thunderbird, we all speak English, so we first offer English-based support, but the majority of us, they speak like a second language or a non-native English speaker, so we try in our spare time or even during working hours to offer support in those specific non-English.
Now, would we consider
community.
those parts of the official Thunderbird ecosystem or tangential communities that are aligned?
They're tangential community. They're like fan communities. They're not official things, but we try to be, as you said, we try to be where the users are. We try to redirect them to our official channel so we can offer better support, but we always also try to step outside and reach out to the wider community as much as we can.
I'm not going to promise to start reporting on the metrics of those external support channels because that falls well outside. We're obviously open to, communication from the folks that are moderating and running those. We obviously want to have conversations and support you along your way. If you've got your own little community and that's what's working well for you, like awesome. We're not jealous. Like we want it for you. If you want to communicate your metrics, like we'll help bubble them up if it's something that you're proud of or it's relevant. We will have to decide what is relevant and what is not. And that might be the caveat I add there. But yeah, it's a great question.
All righty. I think we can officially conclude our first episode of season 2 of State of the Thunder. Thank you everybody for joining, and we will talk to you in the next one. Have a great rest of the day.